What's going on, guys? Welcome to your 21st C++ tutorial. And before I even get started with this tutorial, I just want to mention one thing that you guys probably noticed already, and that is I don't have return 0 at the end of my main. And that is because I just found out that, well, let me say this. In the old C++ ways, you had to have that return 0 statement, but now, the new version or whatever, whenever you don't include return 0 at the end of your main, C++ just assumes you return 0 after the last statement. So, if you go ahead and type your program, you can either put it if you're a, old school programmer, or you can not include it and it will just assume you have return 0. But for the rest of these tutorials, I'm going to exclude it, so, don't freak out that it isn't there. So anyways, let's go ahead and get to the heart of this tutorial, and that's assignment operators and increment operators. Now we already know, well, let's go ahead and get a variable first. Set x equal to 10. Looks good. So we already know we can do something like this. X plus equals 10, and this is basically the same as writing x equals x plus 10. So then whenever let me just go ahead and end this line and print it out, we go ahead and we get 20, just like that. So what it does is it takes this value, adds it to x, and sets it equal to the new x variable. So I already told you guys plus equals is a shortcut, but I also want to go over all of them so when you see them in programming you don't get confused. X, well, let's change this to 5. It's weird if they're the same number. So x minus equal 5 equals 10 minus 5, and assigns that to the new value of x. So let's go ahead and see that that is 5. Now if we go ahead and see multiplies equals, what this would do is do 10 times 5 and set it equal to 50. And the last one, without getting in the weird stuff, is divide equals 5. And this, of course, is 2. So what this does is it basically takes the old value of x, divides it by this value, and sets it equal to the new value of x. So aside from that, there's one more, and I rarely use it this way. I hate writing it like this, and I hate seeing other people write it like this because it's confusing. This is going to be a bad example because 10 divided by 5 is 2 with no remainder, so it'll be 0. But if we go ahead and throw like 3, something like this, what this does is it takes the old value of x, divides it by 3, and it stores the remainder in 1. So now x is going to be equal to 1. Right like that. So those are all your assignment operators: plus, minus, multiply, divide, and modulus, which is a remainder. So now whenever you come across them in programming, you'll understand what they mean. So now what I want to talk to you guys about is those increment operators. So let's go ahead and get a new value, 20. That's a little bit better. It's my favorite number. So you know how I told you guys that you could do something like this: x plus plus, and this was the same thing as adding 1 to x. Simple enough, right? Not exactly, because there are two different versions of this increment operator, and I'm going to show you the differences between both. So let's go ahead and see out x n line. Let's go ahead and run this and take a look at what happens. So our initial value of x was equal to 20, and then we ran this line of code and it printed 20, alright, and then we ran this line and it was equal to 21. Well, what the increment operator is doing, whenever you write variable with plus plus after it, it's going to go ahead and run this line of code, and then it's going to add 1 to that variable. So it runs this line of code, x is still 20, then when it gets done running, it assigns 21 to x, and then it runs this one. So that's why it was 20, 21. So if you're saying, alright, simple enough, what's the other version? The other version is this. Whenever the increment operator is before the variable, like plus plus x instead of x plus plus, what happens is you can see whenever we run the program, it goes 21, 21. So what this does before the variable is it adds 1 first, and then it runs the statement. So it adds 1 right here and then runs it. So right here, the value of x is getting set to 21, and then run it 21, still 21, 21. So it's basically, if your pluses are before the x, it's going to add 1 before it runs it. If your pluses are after the x, it's going to run the line of code and then add 1 to the variable. So if you're building a program and you're off by 1, maybe you're running a loop or something and you're always off by 1, chances are your pluses are on the wrong side, either this side or that side. So this is a common error, and it's actually something that people have a hard concept understanding. But just remember, where you add your pluses indicate when it's going to add 1, before or after the statement. And if you remember it like that, it'll be simple enough. So now you understand that you don't need to return 0. You understand all the assignment operators. That's actually kind of a tongue twister. Assignment operators, assignment operators, assignment operators. Got it. And now you understand increment operators, which is plus plus x and x plus plus. Oh, and one other thing, there's also minus minus x, and what this does, of course, is subtracts it, and x minus minus, but I don't need to show you guys that. So just remember those 4 different increment operators, all those assignment operators, and you don't need to return 0 anymore, and you'll be good to go. So thank you guys for watching my 21st tutorial. No idea what I'm going to cover in the next tutorial, but it's going to be sweet. So thank you guys again, and I will see you guys later.